Hello and welcome to Useful Idiots Monday Morning, where we go over the Sunday morning news shows so that you don't have to. Our co-host Katie Halper is out this week, but luckily we have sitting in for Katie, Rania Kalik. Hello, Rania.
Hey, Aaron, big shoes to fill. Sorry, wait, that sounds mean. It's not that Katie has big feet or anything. It's just that she's like difficult to fill in for.
Absolutely.
I meant it like that. Katie has very normal sized feet.
Yeah.
Good to be here with you.
Tough week for you too, because this week is a special one. It's document mania right now in Washington because President Biden is under investigation for mishandling classified documents, and that's all they can talk about.
Yeah.
So,
I see why Katie didn't want to do the show this week. She was like, "This is too boring. I'm just gonna have to have someone else fill in."
Yeah. Now, Rania, you are with Breakthrough News, where you host a great show called Dispatches.
That's right. Thank you.
And maybe if there's time later on, I can talk to you about your most recent interview.
Oh,
you did an interview that would not be featured on the Sunday morning news shows. You interviewed a deputy with Hezbollah, right?
Yeah, second in command.
Second in command. Well, I haven't watched it yet, but I'm looking forward to seeing it. Maybe you can give us a little preview later on after we
for sure
go through Document Mania on the Sunday morning news shows.
Documentpalooza.
Documentpalooza. And as always, everyone, you can help us out. You can help us beat the algorithm by liking the stream and giving us a boost there, which for some reason is a good thing. I don't know why, but give it a like. Just do it. All right. Should we get to our first clip?
Yeah, I'm ready. Bring it on.
Well, here to recap Documentpalooza is none other than the Chuckster, Chuck Todd of Meet the Press.
Good Sunday morning. We often joke that a week is a lifetime in politics. Well, we just lived one of those weeks where we just had a lifetime. We are just 2 weeks.
And today's show is a lifetime because it's so unbelievably boring. We're talking about documents.
He's so excited.
Oh,
he can't contain himself. Look at him.
Oh yeah, this is big. Because of course, like, these shows love any excuse not to talk about real issues. So the latest go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say the only thing it's missing is like really heavy music, like the way that Middle East, like Chuck Todd should watch Arab media, because they'll at least have like really exciting drums in the beginning to at least make it seem eventful. But yeah, no real news here. Just a bunch of, I don't even know. Say what you were gonna say. I'm like already bored by looking at the photo in the background.
Well, basically, it's like, they just love to avoid talking about anything that could really impact the average civilian's life. And this is like the latest. Like, anytime there's any kind of intra-elite drama, they just go crazy. And now this is the most banal, boring thing possible, like documents. And so this is Christmas for them. Christmas. It's an extended Christmas.
It's Orthodox Christmas.
Oh yeah. Let's get into it.
Weeks into 2023. But it's already clear this year is going to be defined by a brutal and confrontational political climate with probably a lot of gridlock. What we don't know is how President Biden and Washington Republicans will look at the end of this year. But Biden, who a week ago was looking the strongest politically that he's looked in years, now finds himself on the defense. And congressional Republicans, who seemed likely to try to overreach, as Republicans did after the 1994 and 2010 elections, as well as their chaos in finding a speaker, have now been delivered a political gift.
That's true. Chuck has a point there.
Yeah, I also feel like everything he just says sounds like it was written by a very bored intern. And I just can't imagine that he I feel like every single news show he starts off is those same words in different order.
Yeah.
Like political gridlock. Yeah. Both sides come in. It's always like Chuck Todd does have a tendency to always refer back to some prior year where something like vaguely familiar happened. So he just referenced 1994 and then another year I can't remember. It's like the same format every time.
Well, that's how he has to justify his existence, right?
He must hate himself.
It's gotta be tough. It's a tough job. And so, but if you can reference history, then it makes it look as if you have some unique insight because you know about what's happened in the past, and you can invoke that to make this current drivel somewhat interesting. And this is historic and blah blah blah, or this parallels this historic event. So yeah, I mean, he's doing his best, but
I don't even know if it's honest. It's like, I don't even know what happened in 1994. Like, does he just mean that Republicans and Democrats were fighting in Congress? Because that's true, but that's like every single year.
I think he's trying to
Always.
argue. I think he's trying to argue that Republicans in 1994 took Congress under Newt Gingrich,
Right.
but then he's saying that their own incompetence then helped Bill Clinton win in 1996. I think maybe that's what he's going for. I don't know.
Do you speak Chuck? You must speak Chuck Todd. I do not. I don't speak Chuck Todd.
I'm the Chuck Todd whisperer. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Classified documents discovered at Biden's private office in Washington on November 2nd, just 6 days before the midterm elections, only became public Monday because of mainstream news reports. And there's been a cascade of revelations ever since. Thursday, the White House acknowledged that more classified documents had been found in a garage at Biden's home in Wilmington, as well as in an adjacent room. And the president's public comments produced more questions than answers.
Classified material next to your Corvette? What were you thinking?
Let me, I'm going to get a chance to speak on all this, God willing, soon. But as I said earlier this week, people, and by the way, my Corvette's in a locked garage, okay? So it's not like you're sitting out in the street.
See, this is tough for Democrats because when Trump was saying stuff like this, like, yeah, I had it all under control at Mar-a-Lago. It was in a locker room. Everyone was like outraged and apoplectic. Like, these are sensitive secrets, sir. That's not enough. And now Biden's basically saying the same thing. I was in a locked garage. Don't worry about it.
With his Corvette, which he also wants you to know is locked away. I mean, also that house, that was like not a house, that was a like mansion of huge epic proportions. And it is funny because these people are just so hypocritical because they're all the same. It's like on the other side, they were like, Trump is so disconnected. He has this massive like Mar-a-Lago estate where he's keeping these documents. And then it's the same here, but it's just this one. I don't know where what news agency this guy who's angry is from. I imagine it's like Fox News or something. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So it's just all partisan hackery.
Yeah. 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 It's so funny. Like Trump, in his palatial estate, just throwing around documents. Our Union Joe would never do that. And Union Joe does exactly that next to his Corvette. It's so funny.
I like the images of the Corvette they showed, by the way. I like how they just like were showing like the drone footage of his massive estate and then also like a close up of his Corvette.
And this was one of the things that Joe Biden did to like look cool. Like, oh, I wear aviators and drive a Corvette. And he loved to show it off. And there's even a clip of him on Jay Leno's car show bragging about it. But now he's not bragging about it now.
I might get in trouble for this, but is he fit to drive?
Ooh.
He sounds kind of drunk when he talks. I don't think he's drunk, but he sounds kind of drunk. A lot of slurring.
At any rate,
was in a locked garage.
Yes, as well as my Corvette. But as I said earlier this week, people know I take classified documents and classified material seriously.
Then on Saturday, President Biden's
I don't think you do, sir. I don't think you do.
Did not take them seriously. Yeah. He just left them next to his locked Corvette at home.
Personal attorney released a revised timeline of all the events involving these classified documents. So it begins on November 2nd. That's when the president's personal attorneys discovered some Obama-Biden documents at a private office Biden used after his time as vice president. They informed the National Archives. November 4th, the National Archives Inspector General informs the Justice Department. December 20th, the president's attorneys identified what they call a small number of documents with classified markings in Biden's Wilmington garage. Then this past Wednesday, Biden's attorneys located yet another classified document at the Wilmington residence inside a room adjacent to that garage. Then on Thursday, still more classified material was found in that same room and delivered to the Justice Department. Now, the White House has reported that the 5 new classified pages were found on Saturday. It's worth noting that it was in the middle of all of this. On November 18th, that Attorney General Merrick Garland appointed the special counsel to investigate Donald Trump. And that's 14 days after the Justice Department was notified by the archives of the found Biden documents.
See, this is where I think Republicans, have something to complain about. So Merrick Garland gets notified about Biden's potential mishandling of documents on November 4th, which is right before the midterms. Merrick Garland kept that under wraps and meanwhile announced a special counsel to investigate Trump. And you have to wonder there if there's something partisan going on there, because we only found out about Biden's angle here like 2 months after the election. I don't know. That's
And it
just,
was happening. No. The fact that it was happening at the same time, that you had a similar, even if it was just 5 documents, that you had something similar going on there is definitely shows a level of hypocrisy and certainly like weaponization politically of what was taking place at a certain time, because what has come from those documents that Trump had is nothing.
so far, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so far, maybe I could be wrong. Maybe it's something, but of all the things to go after Trump for, it just kind of seems something that was like a politically motivated attempt to do something before a midterm. And then to see that this was happening at the same time is pretty pathetic on Democrats' part and wasn't very well thought through, because that means they knew there was a complaint that there was documents found in Biden's garage. Although you might wonder if it was like accidentally Hunter Biden that took the documents or something.
You never know.
He was having like a cocaine-filled evening.
You never know.
Came across some documents.
Yeah, and with Trump, the whole thing was they were freaking out because they're like, he had our nuclear secrets, like as if he'd taken the nuclear launch codes, and so from Mar-a-Lago he could just like key in.
But it ended up not being the case though. Like I thought that I remember at the time I was like, Democrats have a tendency. There's so much to go after Trump for, like legitimately.
Sure.
But Democrats have a tendency to like pick things that are actually substanceless, because at the end of the day, or fake, like Russiagate. Because at the end of the day, if there was anything of substance, it would actually drag down Democrats too. Because at the end of the day, these parties pretty much do the same stuff together.
Yeah. Fueling a genocide in Yemen, they're complicit in that. In fact, they started that, so they can't get him for that.
Right. Or like they're not going to go after him for like murdering Iranian general.
No. They support that too. Yeah. Well, I have to say, although this is incredibly boring, it's pretty hilarious, because this is the issue that they made to be so paramount for months, and now their guy Biden is accused of the same thing.
Right.
The facts surrounding the Biden and Trump special counsels are significantly different legally. The special counsel investigating Trump is also looking into his role in the January 6th insurrection. But politically, just the presence of the files at Biden's private office and his Delaware home have delivered Donald Trump and Republicans both a political gift and, for Trump specifically, perhaps a legal gift as well, by threatening to muddy the waters with voters and with folks at the Justice Department concerned about his mishandling of classified documents. And statements like this one from Biden that would criticize Trump back in September do not help Biden's cause.
How that could possibly happen, how anyone could be that irresponsible. And I thought, what data was in there that may compromise sources and methods? By that I mean names of people who helped, or et cetera. And it's just totally irresponsible.
Now, it's worth noting that
Totally hypocritical.
Hypocritical.
The only thing that's really, one main thing that's different here, obviously, is that the FBI did the whole, I think raid is a very strong word for what they did with Trump, because it's not like he was home, but the FBI came to his home to try to find the documents, whereas that didn't happen with Biden.
Sure.
But at the same time, this is obviously so embarrassing for Democrats. They should be embarrassed. And what's crazy is they knew that there was a complaint about this, and they still went with the whole oh my God, Donald Trump has these documents. And again, that story has disappeared from the media.
Yes. Imagine that they couldn't sustain a 5-month-long controversy over some documents, and now it only gets revived because it's coming back to haunt them. It's really fun. It's really, really funny.
It is.
You have to love it. Even though it's very, very boring. All right, so I think that's all for the Chuckster, right, Wilson? Should we move on to the next clip? So this is Senator Ron Johnson.
More Chuck.
Yeah, so this is Senator Ron Johnson, who's a Republican, speaking to the Chuckster.
With that decision, what you're saying is, if the Justice Department decides a crime wasn't committed, they're not going to prosecute a crime.
And they're talking about, so Johnson wants an investigation of Hunter Biden. He's actually been doing that in the Senate. And the Chuck has a problem with that.
It sounds like you still want the information out there because you want to politically damage the person that was investigated?
No, Chuck, because a lot of political wrongdoing does not necessarily result in a crime, but it's still wrong. And the public needs to understand exactly what happened. So, take a look at the political wrongdoing on the part of the FBI. They went to Twitter and they were censoring information. Take a look at the 51 intelligence operatives that issued a letter saying that the Hunter Biden computer had all the earmarks of a Russian information operation. That letter was an information operation. What happened? The FBI had access to Hunter Biden's computer in December 2019. Senator.
In your face, Chuck. Chuck's got nothing here because he took part in that. This is
sad a Republican has to point all this out, huh?
It is. It's true though. It's just true. I mean, and we're learning more now from the Twitter files that this was yet another fake Russiagate claim. The whole thing about Hunter Biden's laptop being a Russian operation, and the Chuckster, who was among those to promote that initially when that claim was made that Russia was behind this, he's got nothing to say now because it's true. It's just true that was fake.
And Ron is right, by the way. Ron is right that what did he call it? He said that calling it a Russian operation was actually a disinformation operation, which is absolutely correct.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. It's just sadly true. And Democrats and their allies in media keep giving this gift to Republicans because they keep anytime anything's accused of being a Russian operation, automatically that gets repeated. And so that gives Republicans this opportunity every single time.
Yeah, it's like getting old. Like, I wonder if this has any impact on like the brains of Americans anymore, unless they're like completely solidly, really, really, really partisan, like super into the Democrats and Joe Biden being like our savior, unless that's your mentality.
Yeah.
I wonder if the words Russian disinformation operation in this context mean anything still.
Yeah.
Maybe they do. I don't know. I'm not one of those Americans.
I think it's probably, if it ever had any value to anyone beyond a hardcore partisan, I really think it's gone now because there's only so many times you can get burned and lied to before.
Well, but people don't know it was a lie still though. Like that's I mean, you know that better than anybody else, Aaron. You've covered Russiagate. Like people aren't really aware it was a lie. It's not like it was ever something that the media like was held accountable for or even talks about. At least with the Iraq War, there's like some sort of understanding that there was like a lie surrounding why we went there. Maybe no one understands what it was exactly. But with the Russiagate stuff, there's never been that moment.
Well, that's why we're here to call it the lies.
The lies.
That's why we're here. Okay.
The lie. We're here to call that sounds like an advertisement.
We're conducting an investigation during COVID. Not the easiest thing to do. We were smeared. There were false intelligence products leaked to the media. We got unsolicited briefings from the FBI designed to smear me because they leaked it later. The FBI spent almost 9 months setting up the ability to sabotage the Hunter Biden computer should it ever surface, which it did the day after. We were offered Hunter Biden's computer the day after Chuck Grassley and I issued our report, but we did our due diligence. We went to the FBI. What do you know about this? They never came clean with us. Mr. McIsaac ended up getting frustrated and offered that to Rudy Giuliani's computer or to his attorney, and then to the New York Post. But again, 9 months of the FBI setting up the process of sabotaging Hunter Biden's computer, which we now know is authentic. Our investigation was accurate, but we were smeared. All that information was censored and suppressed, and the FBI, in their actions, impacted the election to a far greater extent anything that Russia or China ever could have hoped to accomplish. These are facts. And that's all I'm interested in. I'm interested in the truth. And I think the American public deserves the truth.
So Chuck's got nothing. He's got nothing. So he's got to kind of change the subject.
What's he about to change it to?
Well, we'll see.
Truth. And then again, these investigations, they cover up the truth.
Senator, do you have a crime that you think Hunter Biden committed? Because I've yet to see anybody explain it is not a crime to make money off of your last name.
Where's the crime, Senator? Where's the crime?
Where's the crime? That's actually, didn't he already ask that question?
Where's the crime?
Yeah, well, he already asked that.
Yeah, but it's funny. It's like Ron Johnson's pointing out that the FBI took part in a major deception to help censor reporting on Hunter Biden's laptop by claiming it was Russia. Where's the crime, sir?
Where's the crime in lying? Where's the crime in lying? Yeah. I actually saw someone comment that they haven't been bullied hard enough, by the way, to smash the like button. I guess it's Katie's role on this show.
Yeah.
Is she bullies your viewers and shames them into hitting the like button. So I'm going to try to do my best. You have to smash the like button or else you're Russian disinformation.
There we go.
Yeah. You're a Russian disinformation Hunter Biden laptop hoax. Smash the like button, guys, for Katie, in solidarity with Katie Halper.
Yeah.
Anyways,
let's see where we're at. We're at more than 1,000 watching and less than half that have liked. It's got to change.
Oh, that's messed up, man.
That's
messed up.
Yeah.
I really hope your audience can come back from this.
Yeah. And if any Russian bots are there, please give us a boost. Yeah, we'll take a light from a Russian bot.
100%.
Yeah.
Back to Chuck.
Okay. Yeah.
So, Chuck, you ought to read the Marco Polo report, where they detail all.
What the hell is a Marco Polo report?
I don't know. Is that like the game in the pool?
Yeah.
Marco.
All kinds of potential crimes. You know, Senator Grassley.
Let me just stop you there. Potential. Potential is innuendo.
About 30,000. About 30.
Potential is innuendo, sir. Like he just asked him, "Are there any crimes that you suspect Hunter Biden of?" And Johnson says, "Yeah, like there are some potential crimes." And Chuck's like, "Whoa. But no, he's saying it's potential. Like that was your question, Chuck. He's answering it. I mean, again, not a fan of Ron Johnson here. A lot to fault this guy for, but this is the problem is when you're a partisan hack, you back yourself into a corner, and other partisan hacks sometimes have a point. It's just true.
Well, Chuck is a master of this. I'll give him that. He's a master of the wah. He's like a whiner. It's like a sort of whiny, like interrupting, kind of like a seal. He sounds kind of like a seal.
Like we said, tough job. It's a tough job.
Tough job. Someone's got to
That's why you do investigation.
I mean, Chuck, is it a crime to be soliciting and purchasing prostitution in potentially European sex trafficking operations? Is that a crime? Because Chuck Grassley and I laid out about $30,000 paid by Hunter Biden to those types of individuals over December 2018, 2019, about $30,000. This is about the same time that President Biden offered to pay about $100,000 of Hunter Biden's bills. I mean, again, that's just some information. I don't know exactly.
Here's what I don't get.
All
right, Senator.
It doesn't really look on the. It sounds sleazy, as you know.
I'll take it at your word that you're ethically bothered by Hunter Biden. I'm curious, though. You seem to have a pattern.
Are you not?
I seem to have a pattern. I'm a journalist. I have to deal in facts.
Are you not?
I deal in facts. It says, Senator, my question to you is, I'm always worried. I have skepticism of both parties. I sit here with skepticism of a lot of people's work. And I'm curious, are you?
Let's see it, Chuck. I'd love to see that skepticism.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be cool if he did, but I'm sorry.
It's like the only Democrats that Chuck would have skepticism of are any Democrats who like happen to be like left of center slightly.
Oh yeah.
Then suddenly he'd be like, whoa. Where's the crime? Like then that would come out.
He'd be way harsher on them than he is on Ron Johnson.
I'm pretty sure he has been on like Ilhan Omar and like AOC, as much as we have problems with those people.
Yeah.
They're not like right wing enough for Chuck.
Absolutely.
Were you at all concerned? Your Senate Democrats want to investigate Jared Kushner's loan from the Qatari government when he was working in the government negotiating many things in the Middle East.
I just want to say, I appreciate that Chuck brought up the Qatari government, but like if you're going to bring up Jared Kushner as an example, bring up the Israeli government, Chuck. Bring up these Saudis, Chuck. Like it's like I love that he brought up Qatar and not actually the places where like Jared had the closest relationships that were certainly very corrupt relationships.
Yeah, and of course he can bring up Qatar because Qatar's kind of a bad guy for some people in Washington because of Al Jazeera, and it reports sympathetically on the Palestinians, and so and Saudi Arabia and Qatar had that feud, and so they can take Saudi Arabia's side. They'll never go after Qatar for the actual crimes it did, such as the dirty war in Syria, but they can be used as somewhat of a punching bag because there is some faction of the elite that doesn't like them. So Chuck can go after them. Yeah. No.
They're safe.
Yeah. And meanwhile, as you point out, Jared Kushner having all these, pushing policies that support the Israeli government's occupation. Yeah, that's all fine. That's totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are you not concerned about that? And I say that because it seems
like, for example, it came out recently that Trump moved the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem basically just to appease Sheldon Adelson, one of his biggest donors, right?
Yeah.
That 100% influence peddling and corrupt, but never, ever, ever gets discussed on these shows.
And Jared Kushner used that. I mean, Jared Kushner basically brokered that deal, the Abraham Accords. He was really at the center of it. And he was really close with MBS. I mean, also not to mention the Emiratis and the close ties between their guys and people like Jared Kushner. It's just funny that he brings up Qatar of all places. Like, yeah.
What about Qatar, sir? What about Qatar?
It seems to me if you're concerned about what Hunter Biden did, you should be equally outraged about what Jared Kushner did.
I'm concerned about getting the truth. I don't target individuals.
You don't? You're targeting Hunter Biden multiple times on this show, Senator. You're targeting an individual.
Chuck, Chuck, part of the problem, and this is pretty obvious to anybody watching this, is you don't invite me on to interview me. You invite me on to argue with me. I'm just trying to lay out.
Damn.
That was cold and true.
Yeah, shots fired. Shots
Burn.
fired.
Burn.
The facts that certainly Senator Grass and I uncovered. They were suppressed. They were censored. They interfered in the 2020 election. Conservatives understand that. Unfortunately, liberals in the media don't. And that's part of the things that part of the reasons our politics are inflamed is we do not have an unbiased media. We don't. It's unfortunate. I'm all for a free press.
Well,
it needs
Senator,
to be more unbiased.
Senator,
There's
look,
misinformation
go
on
to
both
partisan,
sides, but the
Senator,
censorship and
Senator,
suppression
look, we're trying to do
primarily
issues here
occurs
and
from
facts.
the left.
Partisan cable. Look, you can go back on your partisan cable cocoon and talk about media bias all you want. I understand it's part of your identity. Let me move to.
Speak for it's like literally you're just listen to what you're saying and apply it to yourself. Like both of them, actually. That's what's so obnoxious about these kinds of conversations is like they're both as bad as the other. And they're both just like in their own little bubbles. And it's kind of frustrating to watch because it's like there's no one like you or I or an independent actual observer there to say anything. It's just these two sides yelling at each other who are both guilty of the same things.
I'm not in a cocoon. You're in a cocoon.
It's like both of you. Both of you are in cocoons.
Yeah. It is so funny, though, for Chuck to accuse someone else of being inside a partisan cable cocoon. Like, what do you think you're in, Chuck?
Chuck.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's enough of that exchange. I just thought that was pretty funny. And, both of them, as you say, Ronnie, both of them need to take a look in the mirror.
Yeah. I like how just Chuck Todd gives off this, like, he really genuinely, I think, has to get up every morning and look in the mirror and convince himself that he is doing some sort of like godlike work.
Absolutely.
He's like really unveiling the truth for the public.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, we have more of the Chuckster. Here he is speaking to Senator Debbie Stabenow, I think that's how you pronounce it, from Michigan about documents. What else? Classified documents.
Donald Trump did was careless. Does he have to eat those words considering what happened with him?
Well, it's certainly embarrassing, right? I mean, it's embarrassing that you would find a small number of documents, certainly not on purpose. They don't think it's the right thing, and they have been moving to correct it, working with the Department of Justice, working with everyone involved, with the archives. And so from my perspective, it's one of those moments that obviously they wish hadn't happened. But what I'm most concerned about, and this is the kind of thing that the Republicans love. We just heard it from my colleague, Senator Johnson. Let's talk about investigations. Let's create chaos. Let's not talk about the fact that we have a manufacturing renaissance going on in this country, more jobs created, lower unemployment rate, higher wages, and what they're proposing to do that would interfere with that, would really put us on the edge economically. They don't want to talk with us about how to move the the country forward. And I can tell you, people in Michigan, they want folks that are going to work together, get things done, that care about their families, and aren't interested in all of this just chaos and investigations, and which is where the Republicans feel comfortable, unfortunately.
I mean,
The
she's not wrong.
Democrats just want to talk about the issues.
But
Okay.
she's not wrong. At least she said it was embarrassing. Like, at least she admitted it was embarrassing.
Yeah.
So I'll give her that. I'll give her a point for the embarrassing part, because it is embarrassing. And what else are Democrats supposed to do? She was clearly coached by some PR person to be like, okay, just accept that it's embarrassing, and then moved on to the other things that you have sucky policies onto.
But the idea that Democrats just want to talk about pocketbook issues and not investigations is like, it's kind of undermined by the last, I don't know, 6 years of nonstop investigations, you know, like the Russiagate, and then Trump's first impeachment over Ukraine, and then January 6th, and now this new special counsel about Trump and documents. It's like, it's kind of hard to square what she's saying with what Democrats have focused on obsessively for the last 6 years.
Yeah, if anything, Democrats like excel at investigations. That's what they do best, is just endless investigations on subcommittees and subcommittees of subcommittees, investigating things from 4 years ago and 5 years ago. Aaron, I think I just need to say I'm really disappointed in your audience still, because it looks like there's over 1,400 people watching, but only 700 likes. Just
the problem is
throwing that out
we're such a popular show. The audience is massive, but people are not keen to hit the like button. I guess we have to. I guess we're not.
Maybe they don't have hands.
Yeah. Well, we welcome everyone. Maybe there's a way to telepathically like it, but
yeah.
Well, what I'm hearing is people want to hear more about documents. Well, guess what, everybody? Don't worry. We have a lot more document talk.
So many documents. Yeah.
So much doc talk. All right. This is up next is Rod Rosenstein, is the former Deputy Attorney General. He oversaw the Trump Russia investigation, and he's got opinions about document time.
Two sort of unique defenses in each of these cases that I'm curious your take on. One is Donald Trump's claim that he could declassify anything he wanted. Now, he's not made a legal claim that he did that. And the second is Joe Biden's currently president. So is it currently illegal for him to have classified documents in his possession, even if it's at his home next to his Corvette?
All right. Well, that's one of the questions.
Chuck's trying to find an out for Biden here. He's saying that, well, Biden's currently the president, so even if he wrongly took documents when he left office as vice president, maybe it's okay for him to have him now because he's the president now.
Yeah, I like that Chad is coming. Or Chad, I call him Chad. I like that Chuck Todd, is now becoming Biden's lawyer. That's cute.
It's a good role.
The special counsel will have to look into. And in addition, the legal status of the vice president, whether or not he has authority to make any declassification decisions. But the key question, the threshold question here is going to be, was President Biden aware of those classified documents?
And how does that get proven? You think he's going to have to sit for an interview?
Well, that would be a logical step. If I were conducting this investigation, I want to go right to the source and ask the president directly whether or not he was aware of those documents.
Yeah, let's see that. I'd love to see that. Let's get an interview with Biden.
Yeah. Oh my God, these people are so boring. Like.
Yeah. Well, everyone, strap in, because this is going to be the next many months of our cable news lives. Oh yeah. Doc Talk.
Doc Talk. That's going to be the show. There's going to be a show that comes out of this called Doc Talk.
Doc Talk. Maybe this will help CNN's ratings.
Yeah. Yeah. That's that's actually a really good name. Doc Talk.
Doc Talk.
Fantastic. Yeah. It really rolls right off the tongue.
Okay. We have more Doc Talk with Jamie Raskin speaking to Jake Tapper.
This guy.
And political footballs. Take a listen to President Biden's reaction last year when he was asked on 60 Minutes about the classified documents found at Trump's home in Mar-a-Lago.
How that could possibly happen. How anyone could be that irresponsible. And I thought, what data was in there that may compromise sources and methods? Just totally irresponsible.
How are you going to spin this one, Jamie? Let's see it.
Let's see what the PR guys told Jamie to say.
Yeah.
Now we learned that President Biden had roughly 20 classified documents, including some marked top secret in 3 different locations by Biden's own standard. Wasn't Biden totally irresponsible with classified information? And aren't we right to wonder, to use Biden's words, quote, what data was in there that may compromise sources and methods?
Well, and I think we'll get to the bottom of all of that. I mean, that's why special counsel has been appointed by Attorney General Merrick Garland. He did the right thing there to look into it. I'm hoping that we will keep a sense of symmetry about our analysis of these situations and a sense of proportion about the underlying offenses. There's some people who are trying to compare having a government document that should no longer be in your possession to inciting a violent insurrection against the government.
Take it back to January 6th. That's right.
Cute. I like that. That was actually really smart. The proportion argument. That's what the crisis control people came up with. They were like, let's go with proportion. Stick to the word proportion and then pivot to January 6th. Like, what? What does one have to do with the other?
That's how it's done. That's how it's done. It's impressive.
It's good.
Yeah. Of the United States, and those are obviously completely different things. That's apples and oranges. So we should keep a sense of proportion and measure about what we're talking about.
Look how proud of himself he was. He smiled so big. He was like, proportion, big smile, measure and proportion.
Yes, we said this is the worst thing. This is reckless and horrible. But did you hear about this other thing that Biden didn't do that we can still talk about? Yeah. And by the way, 2 weeks ago, his committee released like an 800-page report about January 6th. And look at what a bombshell that was, because notice how no one's talking about that at all. Like, it's just nothing.
800 pages of a nothing burger. Is that the word they like to use?
Yeah. I mean, it just, January 6th was obviously crazy and reckless, but they just didn't.
It's a big deal. Yeah.
It was a big deal, but they just didn't find, in terms of like a bombshell they could use to like turn into a top issue. They obviously didn't find it because no one's talking about it right now.
Right. Otherwise, every network would be like, bombshell, bombshell, bombshell. The walls are closing in, bombshell.
Yeah. Well, but hey, salute to Jamie Raskin, because that was a good effort.
Yeah. He trained well.
Well, speaking of someone who is very well versed in Democratic partisan hackery.
Why, Aaron? Why? I know who you're gonna say.
Congressmember Adam Schiff.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, like Raskin, an even bigger Russiagator than Jamie Raskin.
Who's more cringy, Raskin or Schiff? I think Schiff. Personally.
Schiff. Oh yeah. Schiff is. There's no one better. There's no one better.
So
here he is. Here's Adam Schiff on doing Doc Talk, and again, this is the theme of this week, everybody. We're just reporting.
Hello and welcome to Doc Talk.
Yes.
On NPR.
Republicans are saying they are going to investigate. House Republicans, the Oversight Committee Chairman Comer sent a letter to the White House counsel making a very specific list of requests. He wants to know what the documents were. They want internal communications between the Biden White House and the Penn Center where the documents were first found, a list of all people who worked in that office who would have potentially handled these documents, and a few other requests. These seem on the face of it to be reasonable request. Should the White House cooperate with the House Oversight Committee on this?
Well, those requests are completely hypocritical when you consider what he said about the Mar-a-Lago situation. I think Congress ought to handle both situations the same way, and that is we ought to get a briefing from the intelligence community about any potential risk to national security of where those documents were and what they contained. But Congress shouldn't try to interfere with the investigations. I think, sadly, that's what Mr. Comer's object is. He showed no interest in investigating the far more serious situation with about 100 classified documents at Mar-a-Lago with evidence in the public domain of obstruction. Now he is suddenly interested in investigating President Biden. I think Congress needs to be consistent here and take the same approach. I don't think we ought to be doing things that are willfully intended to interfere with the Justice Department's work.
So you don't think the White House should cooperate?
Huh. I just have a question that is probably totally not related, but did he get cheek implants? Look at his face. Or there's like some swelling up. Anyway, sorry. That's aside from the point. I just noticed.
I mean, Schiff is an odd looking person. And, he is. He's odd. He's, and he's also, like the point I've tried to make to the vegan community is
Uh-oh.
you know, he's apparently a vegan, and I just
Oh.
can't think of a worse spokesperson for your community than Adam Schiff.
I mean, I certainly like don't hear that and go, wow, I want to become a vegan because there's something I want to emulate from this person. Certainly. But yeah, I mean, go ahead. I thought
Well,
Raskin
I've
did a
wondered.
better
I mean,
job.
I just think about this often because I think sometimes about do I want to be a vegan, and whenever I do, my mind goes back to Adam Schiff, and it almost makes me think that there's some sort of he could be a meat industry conspiracy.
I was gonna say it makes you want to eat meat.
Undermine veganism. Yep. Yep.
I want to. You told me that, and I immediately want to go have a steak.
I think what was Hitler a vegan too? I'm not comparing Schiff to
He
Hitler.
was a vegetarian.
Okay, that's more meat industry propaganda right there.
It might be.
Yeah.
It might be. That's the best way to do it. You know what we should say? We should say things like a good way to, because Hitler's the best propaganda tool. So you just say, oh, like Hitler would take or not take. I don't even know actually how you would use Hitler in this case to make Joe Biden look better.
Yeah.
But I could see him doing it. But I actually thought Jamie Raskin did a better job of like spinning it.
Yeah.
What Adam Schiff is good at is he's good at being so boring that you tune out.
Yes.
And then you forget what the question was.
Oh yeah.
Because it's actually what just happened to me. And then I also started looking at it. And I was like, what's wrong with his cheeks?
He is great at that. He's very, very good at that. Yes, he is. Although when he can get emotional sometimes, like
About Russia.
Oh yeah, about Russia. Like last week when Republicans set up this new committee to investigate the FBI, Adam Schiff was so upset on the how he was holding back tears. It was really touching. He gets emotional.
He does. He gets emotional about wars that he believes we should fight and why.
But now he's slick. He knows that this issue makes Democrats look so hypocritical. So now he's turning on boring mode.
Yeah.
He's like,
and it works. It actually works. I'm going to try to use that.
well.
If there's ever something like I get in there's a big controversy around me.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go to what he's doing and just be like super boring about it. And maybe also get cheek implants so people are slightly bored, but also mildly amused by the difference in my face.
The Schiff method, everyone. It works. It works.
We learned so much from these people.
All right. Well, it's so effective. I think we can move on from Adam Schiff.
Yeah.
We're not going to let him finish talking, and we're also going to skip over his next one because how much more can we take? You know what, Wilson? Let's go to clip 9 and let's change the subject.
And that's all for Doc Talk this week.
That's all for Doc Talk. Yeah. So let's go to actually co-founding host of this show, Matt Taibbi. He's in the news because he's been reporting the Twitter files, these internal.
I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't seen any real coverage of this. So the Twitter what?
Well, the media's been ignoring it, but one outlet that hasn't ignored it is Fox News because, of course, some of this intersects with their partisan interests. Because some of what the Twitter files has revealed is that Twitter was pressured to help validate Russiagate, which was used in part to undermine Trump. And so, for people on Fox News, there's a partisan interest here for them to care about censorship, to pretend they care about censorship and social media influence, even though a lot of these people would want the same thing done to their opponents. And especially if it can be shown that social media is being used to go after China, a lot of these Fox News hosts would be thrilled because they see China as the main enemy, not Russia. So,
Right.
But anyway, this has created space for Matt's reporting to be discussed in some areas. And so Matt went on Fox News to discuss it on Sunday.
Welcome back. Surveillance and control. We're learning of the many techniques that the Biden administration has been using against the American people in their campaign to suppress truth and amplify lies, especially during and around major elections. Yes, we continue to see that. This week, Twitter CEO Elon Musk released more troubling information about the ways the administration has directed social media to censor American citizens and amplify its version of the Biden laptop and the evidence of influence peddling on it. COVID-19 and its handling of it, and the Russia collusion lie, which the Fed pursued, the FBI pursued, and secured FISA warrants to spy on Trump officials, even as they knew there was absolutely no truth to it. Independent journalist Matt Taibbi joins me now with the very latest batch of troubling files. Matt, it's good to see you. Thanks very much for your work around this all of this time.
Thanks very much for having me, Maria. Appreciate it.
So talk to us about the main revelations from all of these Twitter files. There's been a lot. I want you to suppress it into what's most important for us.
I think the major revelation of the Twitter files so far is that we've discovered an elaborate bureaucracy of what you might call public-private censorship. Basically, companies like Twitter had a system by which they received tens of thousands of requests for action on various accounts, typically through the DHS and the FBI, but these requests were coming from basically every agency in the government. We've seen them from the HHS, from the Treasury, from the DOD, even from the CIA, and they will send basically long lists of accounts in Excel spreadsheet files and ask for action on those accounts. And in many cases, Twitter is complying.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about the fact.
So look, this is what Matt's reported is, I think, a really important story, and unfortunately, because the media is so partisan, it's being ignored by the majority of the news establishment. And Matt's even been attacked for reporting on this, but it's a really important story, and he's revealed a lot. And he's revealed, for example, so many more details about how Twitter was pressured by intelligence officials and powerful Democratic operatives like Mark Warner, the chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, to validate Russiagate, even though Twitter knew they had no evidence for all these claims about Russia manipulating people and Russian bots. And the files reveal what we already knew, but new evidence of, that there was heavy pressure on Twitter to find something, anything that could validate Russiagate.
Totally. And, I actually always assumed before all of this information came to light that it was like intermediaries doing the pressuring. So I assumed it was, and I assume that still was happening as well, but I always assumed that most of this was coming from, for example, like the ADL, which we know advises Twitter, or in the case of like the Atlantic Council's Digital Forensics Lab, which we know was at some points acting like a middleman, but they were doing that quite openly, pressuring Twitter, but at the behest of like the State Department. But this actually shows it was direct contact, right? Direct contact from these intelligence agencies, which is so crazy. And of course goes against the entire idea of free speech and the government not suppressing it and censoring. But what I would really love to see, I understand like everything that's come out is really important, but I hope we can get to a point where we can even see some information. And this would be so cool, because I know there was this like sort of, I don't know if it was an assumption or some speculation that Elon Musk would just release stuff like in a sort of a WikiLeaks style way. But it would be so cool to just be able to go through and see like what was happening around other issues that maybe aren't getting as much attention. For example, there's a lot of suppression around the issue of Palestine. Yep. Also, last year around this time, at Breakthrough News, we were covering Ethiopia, the war in Ethiopia. And there was an actual concerted effort by the US government to get Twitter to suppress, like for the first time, to actually ban a hashtag. There was a hashtag called No More, and they just like completely erased and banned all of these Ethiopian and Eritrean American accounts without cause. I want to see what was going on behind the scenes about that, for example, because Yoel Roth actually came out and made a statement about those bans at some point. So there's like so many other issues. Obviously, like Russiagate's really important, but I would love to see what's happening around some of these other like sort of anti-war issues around Syria. We know around the issue of Venezuela, Iran, like all of these other issues that we know accounts have been banned around. I want to see the conversations around labeling various accounts as state-affiliated media. I guarantee there was direct U.S. government contact about that, and perhaps even lists of who should be labeled. I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh, absolutely. Especially because it's only bad guy countries that get that label. So the BBC doesn't get that label, or Voice of America doesn't get that label. It's only countries that the U.S. has designated as enemies that get the state media label. And we interviewed Matt Taibbi a few days ago at the Gray Zone, and we asked him about that Ethiopia.
Oh yeah, did you? I haven't watched it yet.
He said he's going to look into it. And,
nice.
And we gave him some information. So hopefully we'll get. But yeah, I agree. And like I've seen Elon Musk say that it was only voices on the right who were suppressed. That's his narrative.
Well, obviously that's self-serving. Obviously that's very self-serving.
Yeah, it's just not true. I mean, anyone on the left and anyone who follows, Palestine solidarity accounts or just Palestinian accounts knows that there's been heavy censorship. And so
or any of us who've been like talking about issues that have gotten us relentlessly attacked. I mean, you know very well when it comes to the issue of Syria,
Sure,
you know,
yeah.
you've covered the OPCW cover up and all these things. I mean, I wonder like where I would love to see if there's a Bellingcat role somewhere in here. Although I guess it's not so necessary if the government's just applying pressure itself. But these organizations like Bellingcat and the Atlantic Council are basically like arms of the U.S. government. Let's be honest here, like pretending not to be.
Sure.
So yeah, it would be interesting to like see what's happening there. And, you know, when it comes to left versus right, I mean, I know a lot of the right is so happy about this because it's serving their narrative, but it's also like a little bit frustrating because what do they think the left is? They think the left is Democrats. And I personally don't take that view of what is the left. I don't think Democrats are the left. Quite the opposite. So yeah, I think the left, especially left media, independent media, I think faces a lot of suppression, algorithmic suppression when it comes to that. So I know people want to know more about like shadow banning and what's happening around that. I think there's so much potential here to learn a lot more, and I hope we get to.
These are the documents we really care about. We don't care about Biden's documents. We care about the Twitter documents.
That's the real doc. That's the real doc talk.
Yes. All right. Well, so, you know, great to see Matt getting out there and talking about what he's doing. And I hope, you know, it's not just confined to Fox News. I mean, he can't control who invites him on TV. And I really hope other channels, including in progressive media too, start paying attention to this story, because I think what Matt's doing is very, very important. And I hope, as Rania talked about, I hope there's more revelations about the suppression of accounts that haven't been discussed yet. Obviously, what's going on with Palestinian accounts and Palestinian media is just blatant suppression, and we need to hear about that. And I hope that comes out too.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so let's go on to Chris Whipple, is the author of a new book called Fight of His Life. It's about the first 2 years of Biden's White House. And he did some reporting about the withdrawal from Afghanistan that he discussed with Face the Nation.
They didn't tweet like he does. He's very active on Twitter. So let's go to something serious here. Afghanistan, that was a huge black mark on the Biden administration to really have such a chaotic withdrawal on something they just really didn't expect to go sideways like it did.
I think this is a tale of two presidencies, the first year and the second year. The first year overshadowed by Afghanistan, even though he had a lot of accomplishments that first year. It was chaotic, God knows, watching it on television. But what I discovered and report in my book is that behind the scenes, there was a lot of drama.
Yes.
And Tony Blinken, the Secretary of State, told me in no uncertain terms that everything we did was based on a fatally flawed intelligence assessment that the Afghan government would last for 18 months. This was news to CIA Director Bill Burns when I sat down with him and talked to him at length about it. He said, look, if you pulled out
Can I just say real quick,
legs of
the fact that I can't help it, but when these people like call these officials by their like nicknames, like Tony Blinken and Bill Burns, like it's so obvious you guys are just all friends and go to each other's Christmas parties, which is fine, whatever. But I think it does speak to a level of like just the closeness with which the press corps authors like this. I mean, Tony, it's like people who call Benjamin Netanyahu Bibi because you know, it's just like, really, like that's not really holding, you know, power accountable. But anyways, also I like how she opened with the whole a black mark on the Biden administration was withdrawing from Afghanistan. She can try to portray it as being a black mark because the Taliban retook the country, but come on, who didn't know that was going to happen?
Yeah.
You know?
I was gabbing with Tony. And then Bill came over.
And then Bill came over and I was just like, Bill, oh my God, Bill, you didn't know about this intelligence assessment from Tony?
Bill, I'm talking to Tony, Bill. Yeah, no, but I do find that funny that there was so Tony Blinken, who's supposed to be a diplomat, claims, oh yeah, no, it was we didn't know that this was going to happen, that the government was going to fall, and then
in like 3 days.
Yeah, and then but the CIA director, who, you know, has access to intelligence, is saying, yeah, no, like we predicted this. So I think that's that's an interesting contradiction there. But of course, Tony Blinken would say that because he is a firm proponent of occupying foreign countries and
well,
he's
he didn't want to withdraw.
Oh no, definitely not. And I just love his job is to be a diplomat, but all he does is warmonger. That's his main.
And
pursuit.
he plays the guitar. He like,
Oh
right?
yes,
Doesn't he
yes,
like sing
he
in a
does.
band or something?
Oh, look up his music on Spotify. It's terrible. It's really terrible. I'd be willing to give him credit.
Or
No,
what is it called?
he has a track on Spotify. It's terrible. It's really bad.
It has a funky name. It's like a really cringy, funky.
Yeah.
I can't remember something. Lincoln, Blinken, something that rhymes with Blinken.
Oof. Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, anyway, so listen, we've bombarded our audience today with a lot of doc talk and a lot of just brutal stuff, boring stuff. So, as a palate cleanser, today is a
Martin
federal
Luther King
holiday
Day. Yeah.
honoring Dr. King. So we're gonna end with some actual moral clarity and a moral conscience, which is crazy for a show devoted to the Sunday News Show. So we're gonna end with Dr. King. This is a clip of his speech called Beyond Vietnam. And Wilson, it's the last clip. It's clip number 12.
As I have walked among the desperate, rejected, and angry young men, I have told them that Molotov cocktails and rifles would not solve their problems. I have tried to offer them my deepest compassion while maintaining my conviction that social change comes most meaningfully through nonviolent action. But they ask, and rightly so, what about Vietnam? They ask if our own nation wasn't using massive doses of violence to solve its problems, to bring about the changes it wanted. Their questions hit home, and I knew that I could never again raise my voice against the violence of the oppressed in the ghettos without having first spoken clearly to the greatest purveyor of violence in the world today, my own government.
So there it is. And that's the line they never, ever air on cable news here. And there were all these tributes to him yesterday on the Sunday shows. But of course, none of them will ever play that speech, and especially that line where he calls his own government the greatest purveyor of violence in the world today, which still applies so many years later.
And then was assassinated not long after that.
That's right.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we're going to end the show. So on a bit of a downer, because of course, Dr. King, what happened to him was such a. I mean, like, what can you say about it? It's still like the fact that someone like that existed in public life in the U.S. and achieved that level, and then of course was assassinated for it. I think that's had such an impact on the country, and it's meant that we haven't seen a figure like him really since then. Because
No.
I think the tragic lesson of his life is when you have that kind of moral clarity, when you call out your own government and its violence, you pay the price with your life. And I think, and now there's still this effort to water down his legacy so many years later.
Yeah, where you have like the U.S. military will tweet, in solidarity with Martin Luther King Jr. And it's like, really? Like at some point, I'm surprised. Have they named an aircraft carrier after him? They probably have. To really whitewash it. Because after that speech that he gave, I believe like you can go back and look at how the New York Times and Washington Post and all these major outlets covered it, and they were livid. They were livid, and they like made him sound like a monster after he gave that speech.
Yeah.
And
they also tried to suggest he was a Russian agent.
Right. And when he died, I think like something like 2/3 of the American public had a negative view of him because of how horrible the media coverage was of him.
Yep.
So it wasn't until obviously decades later, which has happened with a lot of these kinds of historic social justice figures, is he's been whitewashed to be like presented in this really substanceless way that sort of behooves the liberal establishment, where they can use them as tokens and really erase their radical edge, their anti-war edge, their anti-imperialist edge, their socialist edge. Unfortunately, that's happened with a lot of figures. But luckily, this happened in an era where things are on video. So you can go watch Martin Luther King speeches and see him say a lot of things that contradict the very people in power who celebrate his legacy today.
Absolutely. That's right. Don't watch the sanitized version of Dr. King. Watch the actual version of Dr. King. Thanks to the internet for making that possible so we can all see it. Okay, Rania, where can people follow your work?
Well, you can follow me at Rania Kalik on Twitter. And you can also, of course, follow my outlet, Breakthrough News. It's at BT Newsroom on Twitter. Also, please do follow Breakthrough News on YouTube. We have a lot of great content there, not just my show, but other stuff as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Breakthrough News, Rania Kalik.
Well, and so tell us quickly about this interview that you'd never see on U.S. cable news. You just interviewed a deputy leader with Hezbollah in Lebanon.
Yes, so I had the honor and privilege to interview the Deputy Secretary General, basically the number 2 of Hezbollah, which is a resistance organization in Lebanon that's classified by the Israelis and the Americans as a terrorist group. It's one of the most powerful political forces in the country, as well as a military force, not just the country, but actually across the region. And it was really great. I really encourage people to go watch it. It's subtitled. His answers, Sheikh Naim Qassem is the person I interviewed. His answers I thought were really great. I was impressed. It was cool to get to interview someone like this from an organization you don't really get to hear from. You only hear about them, right? And if you do get to hear from them, it's usually like they're answering questions like, why are you terrorists? And so it was cool to get to actually ask questions from a left perspective, which is what I was interested in, as well as some other questions. And to just hear this guy like really lay out in very sort of clear, concise answers, like their intellectual and ideological framework behind why they exist, why they do what they do. And guess what? It's not because they like hate freedom and democracy. There's really a lot of deeper answers than that.
Shocker.
So I encourage people to go check that out and hear from Hezbollah themselves.
All right. Well, Rania, thank you so much for filling in this week.
Always happy to.
It was great to have you, and we'll be back next week at our normal time. And for more, you can go to usefulidiots.substack.com, where you get bonus content. You can join the absurd arena and interact with other useful idiots. And we're not doing call-in today, so no call-in show today. We'll be back here next time. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day.
Hey, Aaron, can I play us off?
Sure, yeah. Oh, there it is.
Oh!
Hey, Blake.
Oh my God. What a way to start your Monday.
Woo.
I took a look around, nothing to see, but then I finally found somebody like me.
First time I'm hearing this.
I wanted to tell ya, but I
You got Tim in the background?
Oh, it's tough. All right.
Bad.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining. Wilson,
Gotta
thank you for that.
Lean out my ears.
Yeah. And hopefully, Secretary Blinken, don't get us taken down for copyright violations. We're just trying to share your music. We're just trying to share your music to a wider audience. So you're welcome for the promotion if Secretary Blinken's watching. All right. Bye, everybody. See you next time.